Here we have verse 29 of the 19th chapter, the Gospel of John. Jesus has just uttered one of the seven so-called sayings from the cross. Of course, I thirst. Earlier, they'd actually offered him some kind of pain-killing fluid of some sort, and he had declined it. Theologically, it's because at that point the great work of the atoning sacrifice had not yet been accomplished. But now, at the end of that, it has been completed, and thus he makes this statement, I thirst. And what we have then is a description of the reaction that's given to him. So we have skuos here. This is a vessel. It can be of various descriptive kinds. It usually means something that would function as some sort of tool. It's very broad, somewhat generic, but there was a vessel there. We have a kato. This is from kemai. Middle voice is the idea. It's setting there. This is in the imperfect, so it's the third person singular, imperfect, middle, indicative. So a vessel was setting there is the idea. Oxus. Oxus is the word for vinegar or a kind of cheap wine. Oxus is the nominative form. It's in the genitive here. So there's a vessel setting there of wine. And then mestos, nominative singular neuter, so it's actually modifying skuos there. So it's a vessel was sitting there full, that's the word, of wine. So then we have spongon, this word from which we get the word sponge, and that's the meaning of it. This is the accusative here. Spongos would be the nominative. So sponge, therefore, meston, same word as here, filled, so they filled this sponge to oxus, once again in the genitive, so the sponge being filled with wine. Husopo, by means of hyssop is the idea, it's in the dative. This is husopos, the word for hyssop, here in the dative singular. Perithintes, a participle from peritithemi. It means to put something on, so they're putting it on the hyssop. The indirect object is the idea here, although it's associated with perithintes. So we have the masculine plural nominative participle. So they, having put the wine on the sponge and associating that with the hyssop, then pros enegkon, this is from prospero, formed exceptionally here, so they put it on this hyssop branch. Autu, up front for emphasis, to stomati, to the mouth of him, to his mouth. So he said, I thirst, and maybe in some faint sense of compassion, they offer him this pain-killing kind of wine or vinegar, which was sometimes made available to people as they were in anguish there on the cross, dealing with the great torments associated with that form of execution.